So one of the things I was going to have you coach me on is I had been on a few dates with a man. I guess we had gone out 4 times, and he was a little bit like Carrie's man, just very uncommunicative between dates.
Yeah.
But after each date, he would say, "I'd love to see you again. When are you free?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I continued to give him some of my time. Um, and then the last time we went out, I remember while we were out, he had brought up on other dates just that it's been a tough year. And so I asked him on this date what had made it so hard. And
Good for
he told me
you.
that he'd broken up with his girlfriend about a year and a half ago, and that he was in love with her, and that whole story. And
Was he saying that he was still, sorry to cut you off. I just want to gather the facts, Suzanne. Was he saying he was still in love with her when you guys were on the date, or that he had been?
I asked him, I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
is there, and he said, "No, no, I'm over it. It's just I thought I was gonna marry," I was like, on and on, whatever. So anyway, after that date, he had picked me up for this date, and he dropped me off, and he came inside, and we talked for a long time, and I wasn't even sure how I was feeling about him. I was kind of thinking, this man's unavailable, and kind of a little bit of a like, he just I just was kind of like, he just needs to nut up a little bit. I just, and so when he left, he didn't ask me out on a date again. He was just like, "I know you're traveling a lot next week, so we'll just connect." And I thought, well, I'm not going to reach out to him. If he's interested in me, he'll reach out to me.
Mhm.
And he never reached out to me again. And the interesting thing is I feel like if he had, I would not really be that excited. But I think because he hasn't, my mind is just like, I'm feeling rejected. I'm feeling
Yeah.
like, wait, is he going to call me?
Wait, Suzanne, here's my question. When did those dates happen, and how long has it been since that last date?
That last date was a little over a week ago. So it was a week ago, this past weekend.
Okay.
And we went out for the first time on like a Saturday, and then again the next week, and then again like maybe on a Tuesday, and the fourth date was on a Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it all kind of happened within 2.5, 3 weeks.
Okay. But here's what I'm hearing is that on the last date, you asked him, why was it a tough year? And then he started really telling you, and your gut, tell me where I'm wrong. Your gut said he is not over this woman.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And so he was talking about it with you and then said, "Oh, we'll connect." And he hasn't connected. So why do you
How do
think?
I care? But I do.
Well, okay. Because you were interested in him, correct?
But the thing about it is my friends were asking me, and I'm like, I don't really know. I mean, he seems nice right now.
Okay.
Like,
Well, so when you say you care, what do you care about? Him not asking you out?
yes, I think
Okay. So then let's get
that's
underneath that. Why?
I feel rejected.
Okay. Did he reject you?
I think so, Raw. Yeah.
I'm asking you. I'm asking
Yes,
you.
he did reject me.
But did he? Because he said, "Let's connect. I know you're traveling." Right? Did you reach out to him and say, "Hey, I'd like to see you again"? And he said, "Well, actually, I would not like to see you again." I think that would be rejection, right?
Oh, no, he did not say that.
Yeah. So again, rejection
made no effort.
Right. But what are the facts? The facts are you kind of got the sense that he's not over her. And you were also thinking, I don't even know if I'm that into him. And then I think what really happened is you went on 4 dates with this guy. You liked him. You were interested. Then you were bummed because it's like, okay, he's still not resolved on this woman that he thought he was going to marry. And that's a bummer. And actually, I'm not really sure he is what I hoped he would be. And now I haven't heard from him. And now I just feel like shit.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely it. I kind of had maybe some hopes that, maybe this could have, you always get excited.
Yes.
You think maybe this could evolve to something.
Yes.
Most of the time it's one date and it's like,
yeah. So there was a buildup. When it gets to 4, it does get extra exciting. And then that was a letdown. And then you didn't hear from him. But the reality is you're pretty sure he wasn't your guy.
Right.
And why else do you think he was not your guy besides the fact that he was like going on and on about his last relationship?
I think always the lack of communication in between
Mhm.
our dates. I feel like you said, you don't need to text me all day, every day, but
Yeah.
I remember I texted him. I hadn't heard from him in a couple of days, so I texted him to say, "Are we still on for tomorrow night?" And
Yeah.
his response was, "I'm tired, but yes, we're still." Yeah, but I mean, that's all.
Yeah.
You can say, "How was your day? Did you make it back from your trip? How was your trip?" Anything. It's just, "I'm tired." But
Yeah.
yeah, we're still on.
Yeah. So and this goes back to what we were talking about with Carrie, right? At the beginning of the call, which is just like, it's not that hard for two grown adults who are interested in each other to put a date on the books and check in and ask questions about each other to show that you're legitimately interested without being too overbearing, right? It's not that hard. And if he's not bringing those bare bones basics that are so fucking easy, he's not your guy.
Yeah, you start to, it's easy at a certain point to start saying, "Oh, well, I can do without this," or "This is not that big of a deal," or "He's just a little shy. He's not
Yeah. And why do you do that? Right? Why do we settle for the crumbs? That's settling for the crumbs. Tell me why you think you do that.
because I think I have a belief that this is what there is out there still. So if I want anything to eat, it's gotta be curly.
Ah. So is it that he rejected you or you rejected yourself by settling for the bullshit and hanging on to like hope that he'll come around and give you what you
Uh,
want?
Well, I think it's a little bit of me rejecting myself now that,
Which is great, right? This is great news. It feels shitty to be like, oh, I guess I was rejecting myself for settling for his crumbs and like waiting for him to give me more and like still going out with him when he's like, "I'm tired." But yeah, and I'm the one like confirming, and I hadn't even heard from him for a couple of days. And then we go on the date, and then I am a nice person because he keeps referencing his tough year. And I ask him about his tough year, and it's all about his girlfriend. He's clearly not over her. Right? It's like, he didn't reject me. I was rejecting me, settling for the bullshit. And I want you to feel empowered by this. Aha. Right? Not, "Oh my God, why did I do this?" Like, right. With like, I don't know if you watched the coaching from last week. I know you weren't there, but Olivia, when I was pointing out the bullshit, right? She was like, "Am I doing that? Oh, why did I?" Right. And it's like, no, who cares that you did it? Thank God we're uncovering it and recognizing he's like not great and you are. And thank God he just fell to the wayside, because guess what? The shitty truth is, Suzanne, you would have said yes to a fucking fifth date if he had asked, and you would have been dragging this shit out for longer. So he did you a favor.
Said yes to that. And that's what I've been trying to tell myself. It's like, how much time are you going to give to somebody who won't give you anything? And but I was just like, well, he's cute.
But here's the deal. I think 4 dates is plenty. You didn't like spend 4 months with him. You were paying attention. You liked him enough and you got your answer in 4 dates. Yeah. Next, moving on. I have my clarity. I have my power. All is fine. Like nothing went wrong here.
Keep me from getting so upset when I have this rational.
Well, wait a second. Stay with me. Stay with me. We just are coaching on this, and just notice that you're jumping out of the coaching to prepare for the future. Okay. As if it's like, I know it's going to happen again, right? But do you feel better now that we've just unpacked it this way?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, comical, right? So
with that, can you take what you learned with how we just unpacked it? And if you get disappointed again, that you can be like, "Oh, wait a second. I'm thinking he rejected me, but did he reject me? Let me look at the facts. 4 dates, didn't love the communication. I was the one who solidified the 4th date the day before. On the date, I finally asked him about the tough year he kept referencing. He started talking about the girlfriend. It's clear he's not over her. He talked about a 5th date, but he hasn't reached out. Like, I'm good. Like, this is fine. This is fine. It's disappointing, but he didn't reject me. And I got enough information to get my answer and keep focusing on my eye on the prize and keep looking for my actual person." Right? I think the better question would be, I'm not trying to like insult your question, Suzanne, because I think it is a good question. And I think a lot of people would ask that, right? In your shoes. The better question is, okay, how do I get back to focusing on my eye on the prize? Not how do I prepare myself and get myself out of being upset if this happens again?
Yeah.
The goal is to think, feel, and behave as Suzanne in her ideal relationship. And how does she show up and look for your person? You know what? If you hear from this guy again, which you very likely could, he could pop up and be like, hey, how was your travels? Want to go out again? Right? What do you think your answer should be?
No.
Exactly. And then you really get to reject him. I'm kidding. That's not the point, right? But you know what I'm saying? Just having some fun with it here, right? But it's like, oh, no, thank you for showing me who you are. I'm so glad I asked that question, right? And you know what? It actually just did me, it really is. And I know that it's so cliche when it's like, oh, he did you a favor, but he really did do you a favor by not asking you out again.
Yeah.
So onwards to your ideal person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is exactly about the bottom line is what you said. It's me thinking, but what if he's all I can get, and so.
Yeah. But also great question. What if he's all I can get? Would you rather be just with Suzanne or just take someone who's all you can get and be in a miserable relationship where you're constantly unsatisfied? I truly would rather be alone than be with someone that I'm pulling teeth with who isn't over his last relationship. Way better hanging out with me. And you seem like a real fun time. Or I should say,
yeah,
Tom,
that was part of the problem.
I love your
too.
accent.
I was like pulling all the weight. And
yes,
I did think that. I'd be like, gosh, this guy is,
not giving enough. So stop doing that. That's your work. Stop settling for the crumbs and keep your eye on the prize and enjoy your own company along the way.
Yeah. Thank you.
You got this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
I know you're fun. I know you're fun. Go have fun with yourself and have fun on your search and walk away when it's clearly, you're not available. And the reason why it's so good that he didn't come back is because you would have continued to drag this out. And and the takeaway is I'm never dragging it out with someone who's offering me crumbs.
Yeah.
And I'm all about the woman asking the guy out or like, hey, wanted to just make sure we're good. If I hadn't heard from him in a couple of days, like it's fine. When you're newly dating someone, sometimes you're talking, sometimes you're not, you're figuring each other out. Maybe I hope that you're all dating other people in these beginning stages, right? Or continuing to swipe. So it's not a problem that you didn't hear from him for a couple of days. It's the whole picture of the 4 weeks, right? And then when you did touch base, it was all about him and not even a question or even to say, looking forward till tomorrow. Like raise your standards for just being a basic, kind human. I say that in my job with my business, right? Like anyone who I'm communicating with, my podcast guy, I'm going to be like, hey, Daniel, hope you're having a good week. Blah, blah, blah. Right. It's just like, so of course, if I'm dating someone, I'm going to like be nice and put an effort in and say, hope you're having a good week or how was your week or looking forward till tomorrow. It's just like not hard.
Yeah. I mean, that's another thing I thought, like, is something wrong here, Locke?
The only thing that's wrong is that you're spending time psychoanalyzing him. Wrong. And it's just like, oh, that's how you roll. Okay, bye. Yeah. That's it. It's so simple. And the more you make it simple, and Suzanne, that doesn't mean you don't feel negative emotion and you don't feel sad or that your brain doesn't automatically go to, he rejected me, right? I think we all naturally want to go there and that's okay. And that's where the coaching comes in of like, wait, he rejected me. Is that true? Right? And then like, well, what would rejection actually look like? I suggested it would look like if you asked him out again and he said, no, okay. That might be a more clear picture of what rejection is. And then actually, like, let's look at the whole picture. He wasn't that great. And so wait a second, it isn't that he rejected me. I rejected me by like trying to fit this square peg into a round hole. And so then you can like be a little disappointed that you fell for it or like did the same shtick again, because underneath that, that was the other belief that we uncovered. You operated from that because the belief was this might be the best I can get. And now it's like, but if that was the best I can get, I'd rather actually just be with myself. And it's not the best you can get, but you're going to get better when you stop trying to make it work with bullshit.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's
I
clear.
mean, if it hadn't been for all this time I've been listening to your podcast, and everything, I would never have even, I would have just let him tell me on and on how hard it's been and been like, well, I don't want to invade his privacy. He'll tell me, just kept going on dates and never.
I love that you
asked.
asked. I love that you asked. Yeah. And, we're not going to fault him for his past, right? I mean, Larry and I were very open about our past relationships on our first date, and it just worked, but I didn't feel like there was this like unresolved energy about it. Right. Like, and same for me. I mean, he could just listen to my podcast or read on my website. all my dirty laundry was out there on the internet. Right. But that it's like, there, you can talk about your past and you can talk about a hard year and that you actually move through heartbreak, but then circling it back to, I know that's not the best topic, but I'm, ready and I want to find, the right relationship for me. There's a way to talk about your past relationships when you're newly dating someone that isn't like screaming, I'm not ready for a relationship. And the difference. I know you know the difference.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a beautiful thing to share your history and what you learned and how you want to show up differently and all of that. I think that that's great for two mature people to share with each other. Because I want to know everything about my person, right? I wanted to know everything about Larry when I met him. And I felt like he wanted to know everything about me, but we also took our time sharing everything. And I'm 42 and he's 50. So we still don't know everything yet. There's some things that I'm like, I didn't know this about you. Right. And that's what keeps it fun. But, it's not that, I just want to be clear. It's not that talking about your exes is a taboo subject. I think we should all be mature and comfortable enough, but also, when you knew, and he kept saying tough year, like he was telling you much earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you feel better?
Yeah, it's helpful to kind of talk it through with someone other than my girlfriends who's like, okay, let's look at really what's going on here. And
yeah. And what's the lesson for you versus what's going on with him? Because we could like analyze him till forever, but we're never going to know. And it's not about him. It's about what can I learn here about myself so that I can show up differently so I can attract different.
Yeah, for me, I think it's mostly like to stop worrying about what he thinks, to what do I think? What do I feel? What do I want?
Yes.
Instead of like, oh, why did I say something that made him mad? Why didn't he ask me out? It was making it all about him. And I think that there's a balance. The only thing that should have been about him was his unavailability. But
say that again. Sorry.
The only thing that I should have worried about him was his unavailability and not so much why or why not he didn't call me. It was, should have thought, do I want him to call me again? Do I want to keep going out?
Yes. Keep asking yourself. And look, there are times where I've said and done things that I regretted, probably with one too many cocktails in me on a date, right? Like be open to ask yourself, was there something that I said because he said he wanted to see me again? Like there could be things, right? Like it goes both ways, but if there's nothing that you can think of and there's nothing that you would do differently, then it's about, well, what do I want here? And how do I want to be treated instead of like constantly trying to get his attention and figure him out? It's like, well, one person I've figured out is myself, and I know who I'm looking for, and I know how I want to be treated, and I know how I want to be pursued. That's it. And when we stay clear about that, it doesn't become so confusing and complicated. Like with Carrie, where she was like, I think I'm finding it hard to trust. And then she mentions that one guy. And I'm like, I think it's just that you want to figure out if this guy is available or not. And she's like, yeah, right. We make it so much more complicated and it's really so much more simple, but it could still mean we feel pain. because you still feel disappointed, and it would be so great if it just worked out with this person. And we don't get to bypass the pain. So you can feel that clean pain, that clean disappointment, and not make it mean that you're not going to find your person, and not make it mean that, there's something wrong with you.
Wrong. Thank you.
Ah, thank you. It's so good to see you again.